So my husband and I got married relatively young. We were 23, and we thought there would be no problem getting pregnant because black people have all kind of kids. We don't need help getting pregnant. We need more policing of our bodies to make sure that we don't have so many children that we can't take care of. I was raised right here on the south side of Chicago, went up and down this very street to the Red Line to go to Carver. And all that I was taught was that, don't get pregnant, you need to go to college. Don't get pregnant, you need to make sure that you have the financial means. Don't get pregnant so that you can do more, get farther. I never knew that black people experienced this at all. So lo and behold, when my husband and I decided that we wanted to have children and nothing was happening, I was terrified. And I felt like something was inherently wrong with me. And then I got angry because I started to read about it and I started to research it, and I realized that not only were black people affected by this, but that we were sometimes affected by it more. And I did not like that there was a disconnect between what I was hearing and what I was seeing. And I decided to just start talking about it. I did not have health insurance sometimes, and I would go to the county hospital because I had periods that would last upwards of 60 days. And when I would call and ask for help, what I would be told was, well, if you're not bleeding through a pad in an hour, you're fine. And there was no concern for my quality of life. There was no concern for how tired I was or how anemic I was. Then I went and I said, well, I want to get pregnant. Let me find a gynecologist that I can talk to about it. And she gave me a prescription for Clomid, which is a medication that helps you to ovulate, with no information. She just gave me a prescription. And then when I came back to her, she said, well, are you pregnant? And I said, no. And she was like, okay, well, here's metformin, another medication with no information, no additional testing. And I got so frustrated and I got so sad because when you think you're the only one dealing with this, you have nobody to talk to. And you feel like there's something wrong with me. It's not black people, it's me. And then I started blogging about it. And the floodgates opened. And there were so many women of color reaching out and saying, thank you for talking about this because nobody in my family has mentioned this. And thank you for giving me a space to talk about this with the understanding that as a black person, I never knew I'd have to experience this. And that empowered me so that when I went back to the doctor, and I went to the first one and I had been reading and learning about polycystic ovary syndrome, I said, you know, this whole period lasting forever thing and all these other symptoms that I'm seeing, I think it might be PCOS. And she said, you know, everybody's got Google these days and they think they're the doctor, and it's not PCOS. You don't have any cysts. And I was so dejected because I felt like I'm a librarian. If I look something up, I'm pretty sure I know what okay, you the doctor. And I left and I was so frustrated with myself because I was like, I should have said something. Should I have said something? I should have said something. And when I called back, she wasn't available. And this is when I learned about self-advocacy because I said, can I see another doctor? And the receptionist said, yeah, people do that all the time. Mind blown. I had never known that. All of the people in my family, you stick with the doctor, they the ones who went to school, they know what they're talking about. And I learned they're the expert medically, but I'm the expert on me. I know what's going on with me. And I'm supposed to bring my information about me plus your information, and we're supposed to work together. I got a new doctor. I went in and the first thing I said to her was, I think I might have PCOS. And she said, if that's what you think, let's look into it. And I knew she was the one to stay with. From there, that doctor is who finally helped me to not only understand what PCOS was, The fact that polycystic ovary syndrome, while that's the name of it, doesn't mean that you have cysts on your ovaries. And then she did what's called an HSG test. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it for you. But this test checks with dye to see if your fallopian tubes are open. And we just learned that that's part of what you need. When she did that test, she found out that both of my tubes were completely blocked. There had never been any way for sperm to meet egg without moving forward to fertility treatments. And nobody else had taken the time to look further. And I knew from that point on, self-advocacy is part of one of the biggest hurdles, not just with fertility with Black people, but with all of our health care, including mental health care. Once we learned that my tubes were blocked, the other way that I knew she was perfect for me is that she said, Regena, you've gone as far as you could go with me. Here is a referral to a fertility center. And it meant so much because it meant that she understood me enough to know I wasn't just a patient. She knew the limits that I had set for myself. And she respected me enough to say, Regena, you didn't fail, you didn't mess up, you didn't cause this. Here's where you can go next. From there, we went to a fertility center and we found out that we also had male factor fertility issues. No one had ever tested my husband. No one had ever even asked him to show up. It was always me. And in the midst of going back and forth to all of these appointments, I was working a job, acting like everything was fine, being that strong Black woman, smiling in people's face while sitting in the emergency room half the night. And that's what I started blogging about and telling other people, this is how it feels, this is what's going on, this is how I'm dealing with it, and it may not be the best way, but this is what's happening to me. And that helped me to stay empowered and to continue when I was going to these doctors' offices to say, well, no, I don't think that that's right. Here's what I researched. Let's talk. Is this what you're doing because it's me, or is this what you're doing because it's what you do for everybody? There was also things that I realized that were just inhumane to me. When my husband did have to go and give a sperm sample, it was a waiting room inside a regular medical office, and it was a bathroom right there. Where's the dignity in that? I also started to research the history of Black people in our fertility and why those stereotypes existed in the first place. Who said that we had all these children and didn't know how to take care of them? I looked at the history of us in this country and the fact that our production was the lifeblood of the economy of the United States. And so, of course, it looks like we have dozens and dozens of children when that's the very basis of you being allowed to be here. And I raged against that. And it's been my mission to make sure that other people of color understand the importance of advocating for ourselves, the importance of those of us who are interested in going into new career fields, consider these very fields. The women that are here, that are Black women in this field, you looking at basically half the ones in the country. This is important. I also began to talk to physicians about when I come into your waiting room and I don't see Ebony or Essence, I know you didn't even expect me to come here. We need to do more about supporting one another and making these conversations common on all ages. I have a 16-year-old niece who stayed home from school 2 weeks ago because her periods were so bad. And because I know this field, I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Who are we going to talk to? Because I didn't know that when I was 16. The amount of information that you all are able to receive today in a church is so vital. And I am so proud of what Stacey is doing for our people and our city, because as a Black girl from the South Side of Chicago, I never got this information, ever. And it could have saved me years and money. It took 10 years for us to get to our son Judah, who is now a 35-year-old man in his head. But I now know things that I cannot unknow. And I hope that what you gain from being here today is that same power. That the things that you're learning today, even if you feel like this won't necessarily impact me, that it changes how you communicate with your family, with your friends, with your nieces and nephews, godchildren, co-workers. We never know what other people are dealing with, especially people of color. We put on that armor, we walk out into the world, and people have no idea. But now that you know better, we can all do better. Thank you.